Hello again, another multi-tool. This time we're looking at the Gerber Suspension. Now first, let's talk about the price. These run anywhere from £30 to £40, which which is actually really inexpensive for a multi-tool because they usually cost a hell of a lot more than that now. You're lucky if you can find a multi-tool for 80 quid, but 40 quid, not bad. That said, it's a cheap Chinese model, although it is by Gerber. Um, Something like this is obviously way better than something you pay a tenner from Amazon, from one of those no names or something you've never heard before. Uh, Honestly, those multi tools that you've never heard of, they're usually pretty awful, so that's why you've never heard of them. At least Gerber's half decent. I know that Gerber quite often gets crapped on. I personally see nothing wrong with them. Now, obviously, being a budget multi tool, especially one by Gerber, it's not going to be the best. That said, for the money, it's pretty good. Now, it's not going to compare to a Leatherman Wave, which, by the way, here's the Leatherman Wave right here for comparison. Leatherman Wave obviously being 2 or 3 times the price, depending on where you go, than this Gerber. But of course, the Leatherman Wave is made in the US. It's made to a much higher standard, a much better quality, and you've got a lot more features on the Leatherman. You've got a lot more capabilities. Not only that, this Leatherman Wave is a hell of a lot lighter and a lot smaller than the Gerber Suspension. Now you can see here just how wide the Gerber Suspension is. That said, it's not too uncomfortable in the pocket. By the way, it did come supplied with a nylon sheath, which, yeah, it's not even worth mentioning. Those are just, honestly, the sheaths that most of these multi-tools come with are just so bad anyway. Let's have a look at the features on this multi-tool. Now, we do have a sort of skeletonized frame. I'm glad to say that it does use just standard Torx bits, opposed to a Leatherman, which has the security Torx. You can see that little nipple in the middle here. These can be a pain in the ass if you don't have the security Torx bits, which by the way you can get them on eBay for a couple of quid anyway. I will just say as well, I've modified this one to make it non-locking, to make it legal to carry in the UK. That's why I'm mentioning the Torx. There's just a washer in there to stop the locking gauge in. If you want to see the video on that, well, I've made one, so have a look at that if you want to legally carry your Leatherman Wave. Speaking of the Torx, I had actually considered taking this one apart to make it non-locking. I have been wondering if it's possible to remove those locks, and I'm thinking if you take the thing apart, you probably can, and it'll basically act like a slip joint. Now, I'm not going to do that with this one because it's not the greatest of tool sets, and to be honest, I've got so many other multi-tools that I can carry anyway, and I'm sure I could find an excuse to carry it if I really want to, so there's that. Moving on, let's have a look at the blades. Now, this is supposed to be a one-handed opening. I say that because the thing is so difficult to open one hand that I find myself just doing it with 2 hands anyway. By the way, this thing bit me 10 minutes ago, which that's where that plaster came from, because the thing bit me while I was trying to make this video. And I'm sure you're going to say, well, you should be careful with knives. Yes, I know this, but to be honest, when I'm doing things like this, I just get excited. I don't pay attention, so there's that. Here's the lock here. It's you need to use 2 fingers, your finger and your thumb, to disengage that lock. I think you're supposed to be like, oh, okay, you can. Last time I tried that, I couldn't do it with one hand, but there we go. I suppose you can close it with one hand as well. Okay. Other side. And by the way, these blades are about 2 inches long, so they're pretty tiny, very non-threatening. Here we have another similar sheep's foot blade, which is serrated. The sharpness on these blades aren't too great. Again, what do you expect for the price? We'll have a look at some of the other tools here, which are equally as difficult to get out. We've got a very tiny wood saw, which looks to be less than 2 inches. I'm not really sure how much work you can get done with that saw, but I don't know. I mean, it's not bad for the money. I'll compare it again here to the Leatherman Wave. You could see there that the Wave has a considerably larger saw. So there's that. But it's a multi-tool. Don't expect to be cutting down trees with this or anything like that. It's just for for small light tasks, and I know that there's plenty of folk out there that like to do it anyway. I mean, fair enough, to be honest. I mean, you want to get the most capability out of your multi-tool that you can. I get that, but understand its limits. You know, it's not a replacement for a dedicated tool. Okay, next up, after the wood saw, we've got a Phillips screwdriver, which is pretty flat. I wish they wouldn't do that. Now, that's just to save space. Let's see if the thing will focus. That's just to save space, I think. It does work. I tried it earlier on today. I'll get the job done if need be. Next to that, I will say that it is a little painful to open these tools up. The nail catch actually goes right under your nail in such a manner that it's actually kind of uncomfortable and a little bit painful. So that might be something to consider. It is a little bit of a nail breaker. And the next tool is a flathead screwdriver. It's a flathead screwdriver, not really that much to say really. Now, for convenience's sake, I'm just going to open all the tools up on the other side because it's a pain in the ass. So, one moment, please. Okay. The other tools, aside from the serrated blade, we have a small slotted screwdriver, a can opener / bottle opener combination. You can see here we've got the can opener for food and the bottle opener for your drinks. And we've got a pair of scissors here which are okay. Now, apparently Gerber is owned by Fiskars and this is their design, so I mean they're good. They're okay. Obviously nowhere near as good as the king of pocket knife and multi-tool scissors, Victorinox. Absolutely nothing on the planet is beating a pair of Victorinox scissors. Simple as that really. And the final tool, we'll just close that, and by the way this does have a lanyard ring in there, but that's nothing too exciting. And yes, that's how these scissors go back, maybe a little bit dangerous of a design. If I open up the multi-tool, we can see the start of the show, which is a pair of sprung pliers. I'm absolutely fine with that being sprung. I mean that makes some jobs a little easier, like if you've got to pick things up. These pliers do seem fairly precise, which is great. I mean, I'm able to pinch my skin with it. To me, that's how you know how precise they are, if you can grab your skin with it. If not, it's very imprecise. Obviously not the best, but these do look fairly strong, so only time will tell. And one thing I have noticed is if you look here, you can see a seam in the middle of the pliers, almost like they've been made in two halves. Not too sure what to think of that. And last thing I'd like to point out is I've got these rubber pads here. I only noticed that today and I've had this thing for about a week. I'm guessing it's just to give you some extra grip while squeezing on it. Either that or it's to soften the blow when you close them. But I think it's more likely it's for grip. Final thing before I end this video, I've got a Stanley multi-tool which I've had for probably about 8 years now. Notice that it's very similar to this Gerber. I think this Stanley multi-tool is also copying the Gerber. But I said, it's even cheaper. You can get these for about a tenner, and the only place you really seem to find these is like the B&Q and Homebase here in the UK. 10 quid, not bad. It's not bad. It's not good either, but it's not bad. The pliers on these are pretty good. I think I'll do a video on this later on actually. That aside, that pretty much concludes this video. What do you think of this multi-tool? Do you have one? Do you like it? Do you think it's too bulky? I think it's just a little bit too bulky in the pocket. That said, it's nothing too unreasonable, although it is pretty heavy. Let me know your thoughts. I'll see you later.